What's going on YouTube? You already know who it is, baby. It's Yugi Skull, back with yet another deck profile today. Man, I've been like cranking these out, I would say, these past couple of weeks, just during the holidays. I got some downtime from work, which has been nice. So I took out Voiceless Voice with Dogmatica and Fiendsmith engines within this build. To locals the other night, I did pretty good. I went X1. Which is pretty cool, just because like the first place winner, they only had 10 points, I had 9, so it's like, you know, it was a pretty competitive deck. Some of the matchups were pretty nice too. I faced off and defeated 2 Fiendsmith Ryzeal decks in 4 rounds, so that's like the best deck in the format, as we all know. And then I also took on it was like a Fiendsmith Snake Eye control deck, obviously without OSS. I did lose that one just due to bricking. Not much I can do there. As you know, as we all know, Voiceless Voice does have bricks, unfortunately. But I'm going to talk to you guys how I've been thinking about addressing that issue in theory with this archetype. And then I believe my other win was against Dinos, which was quite interesting, just because they do run the one miss, which protects them from hand traps, and when they do go off, their end board is like 4 to 5 different negates, hand traps, plus that Book of Moon dinosaur card. That's quite good. I think it's like 3,500 attack. I can't remember the name, but it was quite it was quite a decent board, I would say, in this format. Cool, let's get right in. We'll start off with the main deck. I do want to make this a quick deck profile. So in the main, we do have, of course, the heart and soul of the deck. 3 low. I did actually pull the ulti low in Yugioh the other day, last night, which I was pretty stoked about. Definitely might pick up the other 2. I'm not sure yet. I mean, you know, if I pull the others, I'll take it. But yeah, bread and butter of the deck, the heart and soul. In terms of rituals, I'm only playing these 3. That's it. Very searchable in the deck. Very, Skull Guardian is also the heart and soul of the deck. That's your Omni Negate. It's your beat stick to push for game, and then your Ceravis is actually going to be exceptionally important in this format to try and out as like a type of like Solemn Warning-esque card. So on summon, what this does is essentially it's negating the summon and banishes the card, which is really key. The banishment is actually quite key. So a lot of matchups against like Fiendsmith Ryzeal, for example, they link off into their Fiendsmith Requiem. You quickly out it, you banish the Requiem, and now all of a sudden their entire Fiendsmith engine is likely offline for the duration of the duel, unless they run, you know, additional extra deck cards for Fiendsmith. But if it's Fiendsmith Ryzeal, it's probably a done deal, just because there's only so many spots that they can fit in their rank 4s, right? Because it's primarily a rank 4 toolbox deck. Then 2 Skull Guardian, pretty standard. It's always been 2, never been 3, never been 1. Ceravis might bump this up to 2, but for now I think I'm sticking to 1. 1 is pretty good, as you know, it's also searchable. I found a lot of times I also search this off like Saphira or pre-prep if I know I'm gonna have to normal summon my Diviner, or if I require to, you know, insulate my Skull Guardian, which is gonna potentially search out a low for me. So a lot of times what I end up doing is actually prioritizing the search of this before I ritual summon to essentially insulate my lines of play against any potential hand traps, such as Imperm, Veiler, Mourner, etc. Awesome. We've got, of course, 3 Diviners, which is the better low, and the 1 Trias. I kind of love opening Trias with Diviner and low. Like if I see these 2, it's really nice, because it just means that you're not only going to push through in Impermanence or Veiler, but what's going to actually happen is, on resolution, let's say they don't Imperm or Veiler this, I usually just chain this and make it chain 2 and just tribute off the Diviner. So my Diviner is chain 1 on the next chain, and then the Herald of the Arclight, if I can find it here quickly, our Herald is going to be chain 2, so that way we insulate our Diviner's ability to summon out low, because if you don't have access to low, your combo is kind of a dud without the access to low. So you're always going to need to essentially make the Diviner tribute a chain 1, just so that you're insulating the Summon of Low, so it resolves in case they have the Ash Blossom in hand. I ran 3 Saphira last night, but in reality, I think I should just run 2. I did find, like, in the game that I bricked against Snake Eye Fiendsmith, the reality of it was, like, I probably just needed to bump up the number of hand traps just a little bit and maybe cut down a little bit on, some other cards just to keep, like, the deck count lower. So I did play a 45, but this list that I'm showing you guys today is 43. So I went with 2 Saphira, I think, for the official list and the 1 Magna. The whole time against anything Fiendsmith, Ryzil, this, if it was paired with like an Ash Blossom, a Veiler, or like a Purge, or even a Nibiru, would have actually been really good, because this one card on its own, it's not a -1 by any means, because it could essentially in the end phase tutor out your Saphira, so it's like an honorary 3rd Saphira, and on its own it's actually outing the entire Fiendsmith engine altogether if they're not able to essentially power through the effect where Engraver looks to tag out for cost like one of their Light Fiends and then special summons it. That's where I usually like to use the Bestial, so that way they're losing their Fiendsmith effect, they're losing their Engraver effect to engrave, and you're banishing their Engraver, which means they're gonna have to wait until like the next turn to use like Lacrima to potentially dump another one, right? So it kind of it checks that whole package, the Fiendsmith package, for that one turn, depending on the type of build that they have. So yeah, technically 3 Saphira, and then this is technically, starter / board break, hand trap, which is really nice. Cool. Now for the Voiceless package, in terms of spells. 2 prayers, 3 barrier, 1 blessings, as well as the trap. Pretty standard stuff. I don't have to explain anything there. Amazing. I did go with the 2 prep last night as well, which was pretty nice. The 2 pre-prep. Now for the Fiendsmith engine. Last night I did do 2 engravers, but in this official list I've cut it down to just 1. 1 Lacrima, the 1 Lore, as well as the Fiendsmith Tract. Now, in theory, guys, I know you guys might be thinking, like, these could be additional board breakers, this could be like another Saphira, this could be like, I don't know, another pre-prep, a Pot of Prosperity. Okay, sure, yes, all those points are valid. It could be like more hand traps. 100%, all those points are valid, but to me, one of the benefits of the Fiendsmith package is as follows, right? Any one of these cards leads into the others and is full combo. If you open Lori, like let's say you already have like, I don't know, Saphira, pre-prep, and low in hand, this is going to be your normal summon, no problem, right? If you have your tract, even better. You don't even have to, waste your normal summon to get the Lore out, right? So by running the 1s, we're getting away with the whole idea that potentially, playing Fiendsmith and Voiceless while you're already playing the Dogmatica stuff, which we'll get into in a bit, is like brick. But, bear with me here. Like, the way to think about this is just, it's another package in your engine to not only help you raise the ceiling of the deck, which this deck, in my opinion, quite needs, because your end board isn't that great with Voiceless. Your end board is an Omni Negate and a Solemn Warning. That's it. Maybe you're able to loop the Solemn Warning or use potentially the Trap as an additional pop, yes, which is great. Definitely a good addition to the Voiceless engine. But the reality is, let's imagine your end board with a Death Ray plus you have the Trap. Now all of a sudden, your ceiling is not only handed, but you're insulating yourself from so many different threats that the deck loses to. Like, how many times have we, gotten hit by Evenly, Chain Skull Guardian, Chain 3, Droplet, right? It happens. The deck loses the Droplet. The deck loses to, like, simple board breakers like Talons, stuff like that. It happens. So having that additional negate on the field is quite exceptional. And the other aspect is, so many people are, like, particularly in the Fiendsmith Ryzil deck, they're maining the Fuvalos, the Molcharmi Fuvalos. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go Tract or I'll go Engraver. Loria will land on the field, and what would happen is they'll chain their Fuvalos, right? To reveal their hand. They'll reveal their hand economy and what their hand actually constitutes in in the attempt to try and stop this combo from even resolving, which is correct, right? The players are actually playing correctly. But in doing so, they just went -1 because we literally could just keep this on the field, tribute it off later, and then just go back to playing original Voiceless where you're actually special summoning from the hand. So ultimately what I'm trying to say is this package essentially baits out a lot of hand traps. And if they do let this resolve, what ends up happening is, you're going to get your Desiree on field. And let's say your hand isn't necessarily all that great in terms of, being able to actually push through hand traps. This potentially is going to be able to stop a lot of hand traps such as impermanence, right? If this sticks onto the field, you're no longer getting impermed. Another cool pro tip that I like doing is when you do kickstart the Fiendsmith combo with this list, and I would always recommend that you actually kickstart your Fiendsmith lines first and foremost before you even get into your Voiceless stuff. Definitely before you even touch any of your Nadir servants in the deck, just because they do conflict with your Fiendsmith lines, so you may as well just kick things off with this. You get to the point where in this combo you actually can get the Necroquip Princess onto the field. The cool thing about Necroquip Princess is our very own engine piece, Saphira, actually could work to essentially offer you a draw 1 before you even commit your Desiree play. So that's what I've been doing all night, is taking advantage of that draw 1 effect before I even commit to Desiree. And that gives me an additional card. And then I've got tons of other cards as well that allow me to draw, such as Talents or even the Deer Servant, after obviously we've completed the Fiendsmith line of play. So that's a pro tip, is your Fiendsmith engine, essentially, it's a 1-card combo, and because Necroquip exists, it allows you to draw that 1 card that you just exhausted to kickstart the Fiendsmith lines of play. So it's almost like your Desiree in the deck is actually a free end piece to your end board because Necroquip synergizes so well with your Saphira. Right? That's pretty crazy if you think about it. Like, the fact that you get to draw 1 again after exhausting your 1-card combo to get here in the first place is quite crucial. Because you also have tons of other cards in this list, such as Talents, as well as your Nadir, to be able to draw even more cards. So yeah, that's the theory with this very minimal yet powerful Fiendsmith package. I definitely recommend you guys trying it. And in all honesty, guys, like, the deck has bricks, right? If you're playing the pure Voiceless Dogmatica build, the deck absolutely has plenty of bricks, right? Like, your bricks are your prayers. There's 2 right there. Boom. Your trap can be a brick. Blessings can be a brick. Not always, but sometimes. Trias can be a brick, right? Your Cerebus can be a brick. Your Skull Guardians, if they're kind of sitting on their own without anything to actually ritual, could be bricky as well. If you open up, I don't know, Saphira and Pre-Prep, it could potentially brick. They might conflict with each other, right? Because you don't necessarily always have the ability to draw everything, that's potentially not in the deck. Maybe it's in your hand. Another brick, Maximus. If you don't have potentially your Diviner or your Low to facilitate like a normal summon and then link climb into your Almirage and then your Secure Gardener, that's definitely a brick. You're going to have to ritual this off. Then use your Nadir if it's in hand to access it back from the graveyard. I mean, I could go on, guys. The deck runs bricks. What can I tell you? The deck runs bricks. So in essence, what we've done here with the Fiendsmith package, and this is the last thing I'll leave you guys with, is the fact that, yeah, these could have been potentially more hand traps, could have been like, utility cards, whatever. But the fact is, this is bumping up our deck count a little bit, which means we're minimizing the likelihood of seeing those other bricks. And when you do see this, you see one of these one-ofs in your hand, and the ratios in a deck of 43 suggest that every few matches you're going to see one of these. Ideally, you do obviously want to see your Tract and your Engraver because they don't conflict with your normal summon. But if you're seeing these over the longevity of like a long tournament, what's happening is they're, again, increasing your ceiling, plus the Necroquip Princess, as we just discussed, is replenishing your hand back using the help of draw 1 with Saphira. So it's almost like this is a draw 1, plus it's a valuable end piece. Plus this, ideally, essentially, stopping you, and due to ratio, stopping you from seeing those bricks that you're so fed up in seeing. That was my problem with the deck, is like, the deck just kind of folds to itself. You just see too many bricks, and you just simply cannot play. Cool. Let's move on. I digress. Then we've got, obviously, the Nadir package as well as Maximus. Again, this card is so broken, guys. This card is like a pot of greed because you're sending Crbr and Tri-Brigade Farajit. So it's actually a draw 2, a search, plus a body, if Maximus resolves, of course. And going second, it's actually a board breaker. Like, one of these on its own, if they go nade or pass hand traps and they don't have Ash Blossom or a way to stop this, this outs Cross as well as Detonator all together, just in one card. Because you go Dear Servant, pitch Entest target Cross. They'll have to cross because they don't want their cross to essentially hit the grave where they'll never be able to get it back because they only run like 1 or 2. So you have to use their cross effect, and then you're going to go Dogmatica Maximus. The Maximus itself doesn't actually trades really well with Detonator because the effect from hand to summon it is from hand, so there'll be nothing to target on the field for Detonator to pop. And then Ignition effect, you're going to use its effect on field, and if they do pop it, so be it. It doesn't matter because the effect will still resolve. Because even if they have Myriologic Aggregator attached to Detonator and it gets sent to Graveyard for cost, the Myriologic can only trigger on the next chain after we are resolving the cards that have been dumped by the Maximus from the extra deck. So very invaluable package. It's essentially going second 3 board breakers in the deck, and we're going to talk about the theory behind mixing up and matching hand traps with breakers this format, just due to the Ryzeal cards that are in the game. Cool. So now we'll talk about some hand traps. We're running the triple Ash, triple trap Ash, which is Dominus Purge, of course, Imperm, and 2 Nib, as well as the 1 Mag. We already kind of talked about the Mag. So only 12 hand traps. I think 12 is a pretty healthy number of hand traps in a deck of 40. In a deck of 43, right? Especially the fact that we're going to be siding in even more hand traps post-side. And we'll get into what those look like. Cool. And then last but not least, I did run 2 talents. Last night I did get away with running 3 at the 45 build, but 2 is probably more correct. I think in combination with your Maximus as well as your Nadirs, you can see it as 5 to 6 board breakers in the deck. So it's 12 hand traps, 5 board breakers. It's really good in terms of outing the Ryzeal board, just because this is in a simplified game state, this is going to win you the games all day long. This is allowing you to steal the Detonator, look at their hand, rip out hand traps, going first, simplify the game state. If I see this, I'm usually in a pretty good position. We also do run the thrust in the side, which we'll go over in a second. Awesome, so that's it for main. That was 43. Now let's go over the extra deck and then the side. Okay, so let's go over the Fiendsmith package first. We do have the Desiree, the Necroquip for that famous draw 1 to recur back the lost card that we would have used to kickstart the Fiendsmith package. We obviously run the Sequence, the Requiem, and then the Closed Moon. The reason why I went for these and nothing else was, well, one, the extra deck is tight. I'm not going to lie to that. It is one of the drawbacks of this build is your extra deck is quite tight. But, well, the nice thing about this is just, Desiree, again, very good end piece and synergizes really well if you set face up your Radiance, which is your Voiceless trap. So that way you're able to stop things such as Droplet, Dark Ruler No More, Evenly Matched, things like that. Cards that you could otherwise not really respond to. And then your Moon of Closed Heaven could actually be how you get into your Fiendsmith lines if you end up having the correct hand. Like, let's say you have Diviner low in hand, and you're able to get out Diviner, Trias, and then two lows. You can easily actually link off a low with a Trias for Moon of the Closed Heavens, and essentially just kickstart your Fiendsmith lines that way. I didn't play I didn't play Caesar or any like rank 6s just because I needed, again, space was tight and I wanted to play Typhon, because Typhon is very, very critical as a tool in your arsenal this format against Ryzeal Detonator. So yeah, speaking of the handsome devil, here he is. You've got to play the Typhon. You should not cut this because there's a lot of game states where, like, you know, you're hand trapping your opponent, you're outing some of their cards. You put them on like top deck mode, which means like they literally all they have on board is like their detonator and their passing. They've exhausted like hand traps. So what you can do sometimes, you know, because this deck does run a lot of cards such as like back row cards, such as like your barrier, where you have to activate it to use it, like that easily folds to detonator, right? So one of the challenges with this deck is like you can't lead with those cards. So sometimes going Typhon, outing the detonator, and then just attacking is actually quite good because it means you did now deal 29 damage, and you're essentially able to put them on top deck mode, and that way we're able to essentially grind the game out. Something that did happen yesterday is actually I talanced and stole a DD Wave High King Caesar. The opponent decided to pop their own detonator when I activated my talents. So essentially, talents ultimately outed two bodies. It outed Caesar and it outed detonator. And then what I did was I literally just slapped this on top, bounced something, and just attacked and put them on top deck mode. And I had my entire full back. I had like a full hand and a full back. I just couldn't play through the detonator, so I had to out it and put the person on top deck mode. So pretty nice, and definitely wouldn't recommend cutting this for like Caesar or anything like that. It's definitely not worth it. Awesome, now we got some Nadir targets. We got the Entes, Garura, Malong, Herald, as well as your Tri-Brigade. These 5 are probably all you need, even if you're gonna play the pure version of just Dogmatica Voiceless. You have to have these 5 in there. With Elder Entity maybe being like a 2 of, or even Herald being a 2 of. I would also highly recommend like a Muriel Logic or a Malong, just because there's a lot of game states where like you need to out something that's protected. Like, so for example, Entes does not trade well with like a detonator where potentially like a cross has been outed or used up or just isn't on the field. Malong does, because a Ryzeal Detonator does have like that inherent protection built in, kind of like a Kashtira Shangira. So you're going to need a card like Malong to actually bounce it, so that way you're bypassing its protection. Awesome. And then last but not least, we do run 4 utility cards. The one Mondo, you can't not play this deck without this. This is essentially like your better version of SP for the deck. SP Little Knight. I still play the Animage because you always have low on the field, sometimes multiple, so linking out one for an Anima and then linking something else off for an SP has always come up for me. It's something that I will never forego. And then the last MVP of the deck is actually your Chaos Angel. Your Chaos Angel, not only is it out, but you're always going to make a light version. The light version is like arguably way better than the dark version, which means it's always going to be able to out something if you have Trias and low on the field. Another aspect that often comes up, I find, because we're playing the Fiendsmith engine, we have the Lacrima. You can actually potentially get away in making a dark and light Chaos Angel with the help of the Fiendsmith engine. So that's another nice little niche benefit to this package, is that if you go Lacrima on board, and then you figure out a way to get to your Necroquip Princess. Where is she? There she is. Boom. This right here is your light. It's a 6 and a 4. That's your light and dark Chaos Angel. This is exceptionally going to be hard to out. You could potentially also have on board somehow our Meg, which is also a dark card. So you've got your dark and your light. This right here could potentially be under, again, the right niche hand. This is going to be your light and dark Chaos Angel, which is going to be a board breaker and a phenomenal tower that your opponent's going to have a hard time outing. Cool. Looks like we're doing decently on time, so we're like 25 minutes in. Promise just maybe like another minute or two. Last but not least, we're going to go over the side. We got the thrust. Essentially, you can grab you anything you want, and then going first, your one thrust target is Barrier for the Ryzeal matchup. We got the one called by. I played 3 Solemn Judgment. The deck absolutely could benefit from another Omni Negate. We got the Molcharmi Perulia. I went with Perulia just because it plays really well into Ryzeal. And then for Malice, if we are facing that instead of the Perulia, you're going to play the Lancias. And you're also siding going first against Malice or Tikaboo because this is an auto win button against them. If they go normal summon Dormouse, okay, res. You flip your Tikaboo, and if you have obviously your Skull Guardian established, they can't out this because your Skull Guardian will check whatever is going to threaten your Tikaboo. The last but not least, I did play the Old Man in the side. I didn't want to see him going first, but in this format where everybody is touching their extra deck, whether it's Fiendsmith Ryzeal, whether it's Malice, having this card in your deck only going first allows you to essentially have a lot more depth to your plays, especially post-side, where you're going to be able to land on multiple Ceravuses with the help of this guy, without having to just, go one Ceravus, negate, and then you're kind of like stuck watching them touch their extra deck and link things off and make even more plays. Having multiple special summon from the extra inherent negates is going to be really crucial to this format. So I made the judgment call of playing this in the side at the very least, to be able to loop the Ceravus as much as 2, maybe even sometimes 3 times in a given turn. So this was really good. This also allows you lines where, like, let's say your like weird stuff, like let's say your Skull Guardian was outed, like with a Santa Claus or like a Kaiju or something like that. This is going to be the card with the help of Radiance that allows you to reestablish your board back where you have your Skull Guardian negate back online. The other cool thing I realized, people are starting to get really fancy with their Fiendsmith engine. Your Fiendsmith track could actually search out a light fiend such as Santa Claus, which can't be stopped in terms of like a board breaker against like towers such as Skull Guardian, or even like a Chaos Angel. Yeah, this thing's crazy, right? Like I've seen people tech in their side Santa Claus just be able to search it off of this. Especially if they have like more Fiendsmith cards in their hand, then it almost becomes like an extender and a board breaker searcher. So definitely be mindful of this, guys. Like this thing can literally search a uninterrupted board breaker. So we can easily counteract that with the help of Ceravis, which is our old man here that a lot of you guys think is a brick, but he's a phenomenal extender in my books. So yeah, guys, that's it for me. Hope you guys liked the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think in the chat below. Open to feedback as always, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.